Anu Nation is home to the Anu spiritual order founded by Chief Jegna Haru Yuya Asan Anu. Some of the components of Anu Nation are Anu Life Global Ministries, Enlightenment and Transformation, Sadulu House, and Osiris Life Spiritual Services. SaduluHouse.com is the school component of Anu Nation, where spiritual empowerment through education and training is emphasized. One way that is accomplished is through our monthly webinars. Our webinars are packed with foundational information, rituals, and live instruction to empower your spiritual work. At SaduluHouse.com, you can view our diverse list of topics for this year that range from meditation to sex magic. And you can also register for any of the webinars at your convenience, sign up for our introductory Orisha class, schedule a spiritual reading, and sign up for the Anu Spiritual Training course. Enlightenment and Transformation is the media component of Anu Nation. Here, you can view all of our archived shows from over the years to our current segments. They include Chief Speaks, Masterminds Monday, Anu Asafo, Thunderground Thursdays, and Foundational Fridays. You can also visit us on our YouTube channels. They are Enlightenment and Transformation, Orisha Yoruba, and Anu Nation. Osiris Life Spiritual Services is for those who are ready to take the necessary actions to bring your life into holistic balance. Here we offer consistent monthly one-on-one coaching, solutions that are tailored just for you, practical hands-on self-development techniques that will accompany your monthly readings, and customized practical strategies designed for you that guarantee positive results. Simply choose the package that best fits your needs. And last but not least, AlphaOmegaStore.com. The Alpha Omega Store is our online botanica where we offer divination tools, herbs and incense, DVDs, books, and other hard-to-find ritual items. You can also get our best-selling foundational book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. Other great works from Anu Nation are Shrine and Altar, Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships, and Natural Hair for Young Women. All great books to assist you on your journey. To find out more on how to get involved with Anu Nation, visit our websites and YouTube channels and be sure to sign up for our monthly newsletter.
All right. Peace. Welcome, everyone, of course, to Midday Community and to Enlightenment and Transformation and Anu Nation and all of the other different components that were just shouted out in our informational intro. And I know it's a sad thing that a lot of people don't actually probably listen to the intro, because then what happens as a result, they end up asking questions that were already answered in the intro. So stay plugged in, because sometimes you might miss little tidbits, little announcements and things that you could actually use later to avoid yourself having to ask later, But yeah, man, welcome everyone, all of you first time listeners, those of you in the chat, those of you on the phone lines, which of course is 515-605-9862. If you want to speak, just hit the number 1. If you want to speak, just hit the number 1. If you don't want to speak, that's fine. All right. And I'm aware that a lot of people are a little nervous about calling in, male and female alike. And that's good. We've established a certain environment, and some of the establishing of that environment had to come with a lot of work and a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth and blood, sweat, and tears. But we're slowly establishing an environment that reflects the regality and the sacredness and the emphasis on how we treasure the sacred information that we're dealing with and that we're sharing and that we're applying, not just learning and researching, but that we're applying to our everyday lives. So, some folks feel a little bit nervous about calling in because they know that their stuff is not on point, or they're not on point, and they're going to come in wrong, and they're nervous about that. Then that's good. They should be nervous. They should absolutely be nervous. I know life can be it can be something else. I was going to say something else, but it could be a huge burden. It could be an arduous and tedious journey. Some of the things that we have to put up with and deal with on a daily. So sometimes, sadly, we look for opportunities where we can extend beyond the boundaries of respect, where we can kind of, we do that sometimes to regain some of our own self-esteem. So, we go to a restaurant and we treat a server very poorly, or we treat someone who is cleaning up something poorly, or we call a customer service for our cell phone and we treat them poorly. We find all of these different ways to outlet and to kind of allow what is trickled down to us through our higher superiors on our jobs or whatever, to allow it to trickle down to someone else. And that doesn't heal you, that doesn't fix anything at all. You're just creating more bad causes in the world for yourself. So a lot of times, even in an environment like a Blog Talk radio show, you'll have people who prank call. We get those sometimes. You got the prank callers, and then you have the people who will call in and be real rude because they're trickling down and trying to release some of the frustration that they're having with people who are above them. But you got to be careful. Sometimes you'll get that server and McDonald's that will hop over the counter and beat you with a spatula. That they're just not having it. You might get that person on AT&T on a phone call who actually is about to quit the job. It's Friday. They've already collected their last check, maybe already deposited. They just saw the money go into their direct deposit. So curse them out if you want. Or maybe they're getting ready to move out of the country or something like that. So you got to be careful with that stuff, man. Or you may call into the Blog Talk radio host who's like, listen, who do you think I'm trying to sell candles and herb kits or something like that? What do you think this is? You think I'm gonna sit here and put up with this so I can get a $7 sale at the end of the call? Nah, F you. Like, you got this confused. So it's just best. I'm playing around, but it's just best to just to be respectful, man. Have some level of emotional control and management. Be more lovely to people. Be more lovely, be more loving. So I think we've been able to establish that in many senses. And that means maybe people are less vocal, but if you really think about it, in a classroom setting, people are going to be a little bit more quieter when they're learning and things like that. There's the partition is not the partition. The participation is very high, which is a great thing. But this idea of constantly always wanting to assert a point, an unfounded point, I in tennis and you're starting to learn some things, man. I've set it off and something happened here. Okay, everybody, I know you probably can all still hear me on YouTube. Give me a second. The Blog Talk dropped, of course, right? Big surprise there, right, everyone? So just give me a second, and you're going to hear the Blog Talk rigmarole for a second here. Since you were calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now. I saw a little flash.
To start your show now, press 1.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
Okay. Let's see. Am I back? All right. Sorry about that, Blog Talk people. I know you guys who are called in. You know what Blog Talk does sometimes. At this point, I don't have to go through the whole the whole explanation at this point. Sometimes it drops your call. Sometimes you calling it drops you. Sometimes it drops me. And, it is what it is, man. But like I said, we're phasing Blog Talk out anyway, man. I know some people who use it and they're having great success, but they're mainly doing like calling and talk shows and things like that. So they're having great success with the Blog Talk platform. As for me, because my format is a little bit different, I don't really need it as much as I did at one point. Like when I was doing the Sunday live calling Chief Speaks, yeah, that. It was great, you know. But now that we don't really do as many live call-ins as much anymore, it can go. So I'm not going to make a big stink about that. And like I said, I didn't like the answer they gave me. That's kind of what we're talking about too, you know, that emotional control today. When I had reached out to them and told them that, you know, you guys were all having trouble calling in and we're getting prompted to be charged $1 a minute or penny a minute, they like, oh, you need to go talk to T-Mobile about that. I was like, all right, yeah, all right, that's it for you. Yeah, you're done, Blog Talk. You done pocketed enough of my money now. You're done. You know, so sometimes we're so reactionary a lot of times when we hear things that we don't like or hear things that could actually change our situation, that we start to express certain emotions in the moment that really serve no purpose to actually bring any type of balance to the moment. You know, and I kind of wanted to speak about this. You notice I'm getting right into it because I actually have a consultation to do shortly. So I said, let me just come in, you know, share with you all, connect with everyone. Of course, peace to you all in the chat room. I see you all. You know, connect to everyone real quick, and you know, then move on with the things that I have to do, because you know I shifted my schedule around a little bit like past couple of days, so I'm playing catch up. So yeah, you know, a lot of times because of a lack of emotional management, and I'm gonna kind of share what is bringing this out a little bit in that sense. You know, a lot of times when I'm working with people, and you all on the line, you all in the chat room, you all listening on YouTube, because a lot of you have been victims of this, you know, your own personal victims of what you've imposed upon yourselves, man. A lot of times people will say, oh yeah, Chief, I want to get that life path reading, or I want to do this with you. I want to get initiated under you. I want to do this, I want to do that. And I back you up. And you know, I'm gonna put it out there for those who are listening. I know everybody listens in their own time, so everybody's not on the air, on the line. But I don't back you up because it's anything personal, or because I feel like you're incapable of, you know, getting certain information or taking things to the next level or anything like that. It's not so much about that, to be honest with you. That's not why I'm backing you up in that sense. A lot of times there's an emotional capacity that needs to be present first in order for you to properly receive the experience for what it is. I've done initiations with people and been involved in initiations with people where they could have just saved their plane ticket money, not even flew to the continent, did it. You know, I'm sitting there and I'm watching them and they're just not even present. You know, they're just kind of going through the motions, just kind of looking around like they're like zombies. They're like just big blocks of concrete, you know. And years of me seeing things like that, you know, working with a lot of different people, you know, sometimes people need to do work. They call me and say, hey, can you come and help this? We're doing a service, or we're doing initiation here, or this, that, there. You know, no problem. So the thing is, when I see things like that and have seen things like that in the past, you know, to me, it's sad. And sometimes it's difficult to imagine, you know, when you're coming into a situation to get something, it's difficult to imagine that someone who you may be in your mind hiring and employing to give you that thing, that they may know actually what you need more than you do. You know, sometimes that's very difficult to process, and I understand it. But, you know, again, the society we live in, we're programmed without a system of rites of passage in the society. We're programmed without a system of eldership, without a system of village or communal council. So we're programmed from early on as young people to believe that we know everything. You know, a lot of our books and our stories, our heroines are our children. You know, so it's hard to imagine that there are people in the world who know more than what we do about something that we may be interested in. You know, we could say like, yeah, maybe there's somebody who knows more about geoseismic activity. I don't care nothing about that. You know, there's somebody who knows more about cloud formations, but I don't care nothing about that. You know, we could just go through certain things, but there may be something we really care about. You know, like I remember one time years ago talking to the sister I was real cool with. She was huge Michael Jackson fan. Like, and when I say fan, I'm saying fan, because I don't use that word. really. Because fan is short for fanatic, but she was a Michael Jackson fanatic, you know. And I remember one time I was telling her, I was like, yo, you know, Michael Jackson didn't invent the moonwalk. And she went ballistic. Like, darn near wanted to fight me. Like, and she said, like, you know, those are fighting words. Like, she was ready to at the very least, play wrestle. And I said, listen, no, we ain't gonna do that, you know, because you'll get hurt. So let's not play that game. But I'm just telling you, he did not invent the moonwalk. You know, like, he never even said he invented the moonwalk. You know, but he didn't start that dance. So long story short, right? So I actually showed her who Michael Jackson got it from and who he credited from getting it from, right? You know, so in that moment, it was very difficult for her to imagine that someone that she was so fanatical about, that there was someone else who existed in the world who may have known more about that individual than she did. You know, that kind of, you know, shuck her up a little bit, you know. And I'm just giving you a real small example. You know, I like to sometimes give small examples because it makes the information very accessible very quickly for you to understand what I'm talking about. So a lot of times when we don't have that degree of emotional equalization, you know, we don't have that sense of emotional management. You know, it's difficult for us to receive what we're supposed to receive through our processes. So we want certain readings. People say, "Oh, Chief, I want Life Path reading." I say, "Don't worry about that just yet. You know, don't worry. You don't actually need that just yet. You know, because I'm not. Well, you get it or not. I mean, I'm good. You know, but that's not for you right now, because maybe you're in a place where, and I can see, because, well, partly it's because it's my job to be able to see. You know, being a priest is not just about, you know, it's not just about mixing a bunch of things in a mortar and a pestle and grinding down some things into powder and putting them in water and say, hey, drink this. You know, like I said, when you're dealing with this spiritual walk, 20% of it is actually the tapping into the spirit. 80% of it is psychology. 80% of it is psychological. You know, I know that's hard to imagine, and it almost sounds unreal when you consider the vast and the long and rich history that indigenous people have of tapping into their stronger sense and their more natural sense. But 80% of the deliverance of it, so that you can get it and so that you can receive it and actually do something with it, 80% of that is psychological. How do I deliver this? How do I share this? You see, how do I present this message? You listen to my shows, I don't really use much profanity. I'm not going to say curse words. It's not too many curse words, you know, but I don't use much profanity. Why? It's because I don't use profanity. Yeah, I use profanity. I love profanity. Profanity tastes like honey and nutmeg in my mouth. I love profanity. A comedian ain't funny to me unless he uses profanity. Okay, so that's not the issue. You know, psychologically, how can I reach the most people, you know, at the same time, while at the same time not watering down what it is that I'm doing? Okay, well, that's something that I can remove. I don't really need profanity to explain what I'm explaining, you know. So if I take it out, I can actually get a little further without it. Once in a while, I may say drop a little something here, there, just for fun. You know, sometimes it's just fun to let a little thing, you know, the little word here and there, you know, go by just to be naughty. But, you know, I don't necessarily need to use those words. So, you know, that's a part of the psychological thing that you begin to employ in order to make sure that your message, or, you know, what the spirits are giving you, are sent across to you properly. You see? So in dealing with this concept, like I said, a lot of times, we're rushing. We're trying to hurry up and speed ourselves into certain experiences and in certain realms of knowing, without necessarily having the emotional capacity to handle what it is that we're going to confront. I can't tell you how many times, and some of you have probably done it who are listening, gotten readings by me, and have said, Chief, I feel like you're holding back. And I say, yes, of course I'm holding back. And then you say, well, tell me everything. I can take it. I can take it. That's why I call, because I want you to tell me everything. And in my mind, I'm going to tell you what I'm saying. Now, a lot of you have gone through this, a lot of you. And I'll say, no, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry about it. But I'm going to give you the little secret. I'm going to tell you what I'm saying. Now, this is where my thumbs down on the video is probably going to come from. I already know when I turn people off. In my mind, I'm saying, would you shut the F up? That's actually what I'm thinking. Just shut the F up. You don't know what you're ready for. I turn your world inside out with 3 different words. I don't even have to say too much to turn your world inside out. Shut the F up and let me do what the heck I'm doing. Now, that's what I'm saying inside. But outside, psychology, you get use psychology. I'm saying, no, don't worry. We're going to take it step by step, baby steps. You wouldn't give meat to a baby, right? So, don't worry. I got you. Sounds a lot different, right? Sounds a lot different. You got to learn how to use psychology. But so I'm just saying, yeah, I know. It's almost like, it's almost like you're aiming for the potholes when you're driving, right? He's aiming for the thumbs down. But so when you start getting into that level of emotional equalization, one of the first things that's necessary, I'm going to tell you the main thing that many people lack that causes them not to be able to be exposed to the larger experiences, and understanding that whatever I'm holding from you, it's just that's an indication also of what the cosmos is also holding from you. Because you remember we spoke about that, I think it was yesterday. Your nervous system has to be built up in order for you to have certain authority to wield certain power. You have to be able to withstand it, right? So it's the same thing in your emotional body. Like, I'm sure you all have friends and family. I'm sure you all have friends and family who you may not necessarily say things to or expose certain things to them because they can't handle it. And it may be the ones that's always like, why y'all always having secret meetings? Or I found out you had a little private phone conference or this or that. And they get upset about it because they want to be included, but them that they can't really handle it. That they're not equipped to really handle, serious or adult situations. They may not have matured to that. And they could be adults, they could be in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, but they've never really matured to that level where you can actually have some real talk with them. They either flip out or it turns into something else. And a lot of that is a result of their inner dialogue. It's how they're always talking to themselves. However they're always talking to themselves is how they're going to perceive the world is talking to them. When you talk to certain people, no matter how they run something down to you, and matter of fact, this sister with the whole Michael Jackson situation, she was one of these type of people. I mean, she was very similar to myself. That's why we got along so well, because she was such a strong warrior energy. The only problem with her, where we used to differ a lot, where we'd have problems, is when there was no war, she had to go make a war. Everything could be cool, honky-dory, and she would have to find a war so that because she was at peace with a whole lot of screaming and confusion and come on, let's get out of here. The cops are coming. And, that's where she was very comfortable at, and her presentation was nothing like that. Very well spoken, seemed to be very classy, seemed to be, very well refined and organized in her thoughts and organized in her speech. But she was a freaking violent psychopath. So I had to slide, off from that, So a lot of times, man, people, they have this inner dialogue all the time, and they don't, they lack that level of self-awareness. That's what I was saying. That's the number one thing you need. Self-awareness. I know we've been speaking about that a lot, and it may sound like, like someone said to me, I think it was yesterday in a reading. It's like, I noticed I've been going through a lot of your old shows. You tend to repeat yourself a lot. It's not because I'm getting old and I'm forgetting. And I had to tell him, I said, I'm repeating myself a lot because people are not applying what I'm teaching. So I have to keep drilling it in. There's no point in trying to move beyond first grade. You know, that would be a crime and tragedy to the actual student. You know, now they think they're getting it, but you can see the difference when it's being applied as opposed to when it's just being researched or when it's just being listened to. So sometimes you got to keep repeating until they actually do it. And that's one of the hard parts of teaching, because I don't want to talk about the same stuff all the time. I mean, I'm still, let me see, what am I at now? 27 years in of actually doing the work. Not 27 years of just coming into my consciousness, 27 years of teaching. I'm still saying you got to do your own work. I started out saying that. I was saying that back in the days. You got to do your own work. 27 years later, yeah, you got to do your own work. Nobody's going to do it for you. So some things just takes a little bit longer to kind of set in. So you end up repeating. But, you know, again, that level of self-awareness is key. And a lot of people don't have that. So they're used to certain rhetorical statements, like when you're getting a reading and you realize the reader's not telling you everything, and they'll say, you know, well, tell me everything. I like to hear everything. I don't care what you like to hear. You know, just like you have that relative is like, why y'all leave me out? You know, I don't like to be left out. We don't care because we know also how you respond. So at this point, you don't have the emotional maturity to make that decision anymore. We have to make that decision for you. We have to regulate what you're going to receive and what you're going to be a part of based on the state that you've achieved, because you haven't been able to monitor your own emotional states. You haven't been able to monitor your own growth rate. You see, now that's that self-awareness that we're talking about when a person can recognize themselves. There was a sister who left a comment. I want to say it was Empress 2009. I could be wrong, you know, but she had left a comment that I had highlighted on one of the shows that I said, you know, it was a very, very simple comment, but the simplest stuff is the best stuff. You know, just remember that simplest stuff is the best stuff, man. You know, and she said that a lot of women make decisions based off of hurt and pain because they're not aware that they're still, now it's getting fuzzy, but it was something like I'm paraphrasing, they're not aware that they're still in need of healing, that they're still hurt. Well, that's a lack of self-awareness. You know, that's kind of being clueless to yourself and clueless to the world around you. So when you don't have that sense of self-awareness, then now what you begin to do is you begin to use your own internal dialogue, and usually the lowest aspect of your internal dialogue, to define every single situation and scenario in your life. So like I said, with the other sister I'm speaking about, you know, and beautiful person, you know, I don't want to act like I'm just digging in on her. She was a warrior, but she was also a warrior, and she still is. Let me not even take that out, because she still does work in the community, still a warrior for her people, you know. But like I said, just very makes the war when there is no war. And when that particular battle's over, she figures out ways to reignite it until, you know, you have to constantly move her around. Like, all right, that's done. Now go over here now. Now we're going to do this next. Okay, that's done. Now we're going to go over and do this next. Because if you leave her in one place too long, she becomes highly destructive, you know. But having that awareness, when you have that internal dialogue, like her internal dialogue was always, you know, she would call me up and she would say, Baba, let me run something down to you. Okay, so I'm over here at the Checkers, right? I'm ordering a shake. Now, I know I'm not supposed to be eating a shake. I know. Can we just get through what I'm talking about? I'm ordering a shake, and the sister takes my change and she puts the bill in my hand and puts the change on top of the bill. Like she doesn't want her fingertips to touch the palm of my hand. You know, she would just make up, so I'm making that up. But it would be things like that. And I'd be like, wait, hold on. Why are you calling me about? I'm working. What is this? And she said, but I'm saying, like, do you feel I should write a letter to the management? You know, it would always be something like that. Like, no, throw the milkshake out and, you know, go get a juice and go home before you destroy something, you know, always in that mode, you know. But that was the energy she came with. And, you know, she'll figure it out at some point. But that lack of self-awareness creates this imbalance in terms of, you know, always using that inner dialogue, whether that inner dialogue be a lack of self-confidence, or you find certain people whenever they run a story down, they're always the conquistador in the story. You know, I have another good brother like that, strong Leo vibe. He's a Leo, but he's a Leo. He is not leaving, you know, like I always teach you guys, you got to go around the circle, you know, and he is not leaving that Leo quadrant. He's not interested. He's all about the Leo, you know, even looks like a lion, huge locks, and, you know, comes in the room just yelling, always roaring, laughing too loud, always dressed inappropriately, always saying something inappropriately, like, you know, just always wrong. That's just his vibe. He's always got to be on the side, and people love him. You know, he's a very popular guy, you know, but just wrong all the time. And he loves me. He just gravitates to me. He always wants me around him. And yeah, I'm throwing a party at that. One time he threw a party at his apartment. He moved since then. He had this apartment down in Brooklyn. And he was like, yo, we got 3 different DJs. Now he's got a 1-bedroom apartment and a brownstone. So there's other people who live in the building. So I'm saying, when he told me, he said, yeah, I got 3 different DJs. And he was like, I was like, oh, so they're going to be taking turns on the set. He said, nah, man, they spinning at the same time. I'm like, all right, I'm trying to figure out what you talking about. I'm trying to figure out how this is working. Matter of fact, it was a 2-bedroom apartment. Now I'm trying to remember. So he had one DJ in his bedroom. He had another DJ in the living room. And then he had, I don't want to say what he does because y'all might figure out who it is. But he's, let's just say he's a craftsman. He makes stuff. Yeah, that's easy enough because he's real popular. So in his workroom, he had another DJ. But this is not a huge apartment. So I go up in the joint and it just sounds like total confusion. You know what I mean? The whole place looked like a mosh pit. It looked like a Metallica concert. It was just noise on top of noise. He was like, yo, yeah, we got the Afro beat. We spinning the Afro beat in there. And I think at that time, Mobb Deep had just come out with a new, back in with CD. He was like, yo, I got that new Mobb Deep. We spinning in there. And then over there, he had some other kind of like slow jams. And I'm looking at him, I'm saying, you don't see, this is wrong. Something's off. And then in his workroom, he had his tools, like, because he's a messy guy too. You know, I let him stay with me literally like 2 days. I was like, you got to go, brother. I love you. You know, you're my brother forever. He wanted to stay. He was having some financial issues. I was like, man, we got to work something else out. And I literally put up my money to put him up in, I rented a room for him down in Harlem. It's like, you cannot be here. It was horrible, you know. And then he kept looking at my women like it was just bad, man. He's like, man, that's just bad, man. That's just bad. Come on, man. She's like in the next room, you know. So yeah, I go down there, man, and it was like tools on the floor and straps of metal and stuff, you know. And I normally take my shoes off when I enter people's homes, so I'm put my Timbs back on. You know, I'm end up coming out here and need a tetanus shot, messing around with you, you know. So again, total lack of self-awareness, total lack of self. Now, I will admit, there's a part of me that likes being around him because he does give me a little bit of that edge and that gumption because I already have that effort personality, and he gives me a little of that effort when I need it. You know, when I kind of sometimes fall into something else, you know, being reserved or, you know, maybe being over considerate, I'll call him up. Yo, what's going on tonight? Yo, come through. That is always something. He's always in the middle of something, you know, and he's older than me, but he looks younger than me. He's skinny dude, you know, now he's into working out. So he's all big and diesel, you know, still he ain't got no muscles though, man. I can't tell you how many times I had to pull people up off of him. You know, he one of them guys who look like he could do something, but couldn't swing a punch to save his life, man. I had to pull a teenager off from once, man. Real talk. a teen. Let me see, how old was that boy? The boy was about 14. Real talk, was choking him up against the wall. And he was like, come on, man. He could barely say, man, get this kid off me, man, before I hurt him. He wasn't about to hurt nothing. That kid was about to catch a body. You know? But that's just his energy, man. He's wild like that, and I love him. But he doesn't have that conscientiousness about him where he can regulate himself. So everything with him is about a complete dispensation of his impulses. You know, and a lot of times when we're trying to get into a space where we're trying to control our spirit or manage and direct our spirit, you know, we have to get into a place where there has to be some level of self-regulation. Okay. And the self-regulation causes us now to kind of have we begin to marginalize our feelings and our reactions. Now, that's a very hard thing for people to do a lot of times, you know, to say, okay, my feeling is over here. If you could almost like do a breakout diagram, you know, like a flow chart, even. You say, okay, this is what was said, or this is what was done, and I'm gonna have a feeling that goes over here. I'm gonna put that to the upper left, maybe. And then I have a certain physical impulse that's gonna go over here. Then there's gonna be an outward expression and reaction that's gonna go over here. You see, to be able to put them in compartments just for a moment, you know, is one of the tools of self-awareness. Now, when you lack self-awareness and you lack that degree of personal, you know, conscientiousness or the ability to adapt quickly and regulate yourself quickly, you see everything into one big jumble and it all has to come out at one time. You see, whether your expression of that thing or whether your reactions of that thing help anything at all, it all has to come out together. You see, now this is a brother who has that, you know, so he's always in situations and then afterwards is, you know, because he's older than me, actually. He's a couple years older than me, but he always considered me like from way back. He would always say, yeah, this is my spiritual counselor. And I'm saying way, way back. And I'm like, I used to tell people, no, I'm not. Like, don't blame that on me. No, you do your own thing, you know. But it's the same thing in every moment. Whenever he's calling back a story, is the reason I brought him up in the first place. But I love the brother, so you know, if I'm talking about him, I'm gonna embellish. I'm not embellishing, but I'm gonna expand on the story. I'm actually holding back details because he's wild. I'm holding back details. You know, he was the first person I ever seen to wear skinny jeans too, and we were too old to be wearing skinny jeans. But he had a pair of cowhide leather pants. And at the time I was doing a lot of different programs for the New York City Board of Ed. And ignorantly, I brought him in, you know, to teach some things, man. This brother showed up first day with sagging, tight cowhide leather pants and a leather cowboy hat, you know? But hey, that's, you know, like I said, you always have that cousin that your auntie be like, you know, see if you could do something for Daryl. See if you try to find a job for Daryl. You know, just he could do anything if he just put his mind to it. Just, you know, see, I just wish he was more like you. You know, he's one of them. Yeah, I just always gotta, all right, come on, bro. Let me see if I find something for you to do. You know, but yeah, man, he was wilding out, man. Locks coming out of this little tiny leather cowboy hat, you know. And I used to always tell him, if you were gay, all of this would make sense. We ain't got a gay bone in his body. You know, it's just he's Leo. He wants to make an impression. You know, and I do appreciate and honor his courage, you know, his bravery in that. But and the beautiful thing about him, he can laugh at himself too, man. Now, that's actually one of the key components of self-awareness. You know, a lot of people have trouble a lot of times. Like I just saw Vivid Eye Publications. You just said in the chat room, that's tough to do in the moment, but once it's done, the outcome is highly beneficial. Absolutely. It's tough a lot of times to compartmentalize in the moment. You know, people who can laugh at themselves are usually pretty good at that. you know, but being able to say, okay, this emotion, that emotion, that emotion, and then you pick and choose, you know, you can deal with each one separately when you're able to have that kind of sense of that out of body experience. A lot of times, I'm gonna tell you something real simple. It's something real simple. You're moving too fast. You're just moving too fast. You got to slow things up. I know it sounds like I'm telling you guys, the simplest things are the deepest things. You know, you think about a lot of times when you get into arguments and things like that with your spouse or whatever like that, right? What usually escalates it to a point that you wish it didn't escalate to? You reacted too quickly. You know, they said something, you said something, and then somebody's gonna say at some point, you know what? Forget it. And did you really mean what you mean forget? Like, what does that actually mean? You know, I'm out of here. What does that mean? You mean you leaving like right now? You're leaving a relationship? What are you actually saying to me? You see, and then usually they'll say, bah! They won't say anything. They'll just go back into the argument again. And what makes it so easy sometimes is just to pull back the reins and slow down a little bit. Sometimes you have to change your inner dialogue. You have to treat your inner dialogue like you're your own therapist. Sometimes you have to pull back and say something like this. Okay, you're feeling this, you're feeling that, you're feeling that, you know, and then you get on your own therapeutic sofa and you say, okay, slow it down. Explain to me what happened again. I used to do this all the time with students. This was a little technique. I can now tell my secret now because I'm not going back to being in a public school to being anybody's principal or anything like that. So I can talk. Heck, I can even talk about how I used to beat up students in the bathroom. True talk. But anyway, so a lot of times when fights used to happen in the school, right? Because you know, I worked in a lot of hoods, so a lot of my students were gang members, but they knew, you know, wherever I was a neutral zone. Don't come here with no flag in your back pocket or hats on that say certain. You're not going to get away with that with me because I stay too much in too many gutter environments to not know the codes. You know, so that would never worked with me. You know, little hats they would wear, KC Royal hats and stuff like that. You know, or Cubs fitted. Like I know what you're wearing. You know, so when students used to get into situations, sometimes a lot of times before it was physical, you know, like they would be separated and things like that. I'm talking to them. I would make them run it down so much to the point that they'd be mad at me. You know, first thing I would always say, you know, there's a fight that goes on. Okay. All right. Well, tell me, where were you when everything started? Yo, we was in Mrs. So-and-so's class. No. Where's your seat in relationship to his seat? I sit in this side, I sit in that. Okay, which way were you facing? I don't know, I was facing him. Okay, all right, show me. You know, like me and you, we're gonna sit here, set the chair. I'm telling you, I would take him through this whole thing, right? And they never picked up on this. And then if a punch was thrown or something, I'd say, okay, when the punch was thrown, what hand did you? Your right, okay, your right hand. Okay, how were you standing when the punch was thrown? And then where was he at? Okay, who was around? Who witnessed this? Yo, the whole class was there. Yeah, but where were they in relationship to where things are? See, now what's happening as I'm doing this, I'm slowing everything down. I'm making used to have to make the youth process exactly what was happening, exactly what they were thinking. And by the time they're done, I'm telling you, by time maybe within 5 or 6 minutes in, I'm cracking jokes. They're laughing. Now they're still sweating. They still got the sweat from the almost fight or, you know, but they're laughing. I'm giving them, because in any of the schools I always worked, I always got rid of detention. I am a staunch advocate against detention. I'm not with it. I'm a staunch advocate against in-school suspension as well, because you're just preparing them for jail. I know what that is. You know, you're bad, so now we're going to isolate you and we're going to put you in this room where you got to shut up and stay in a room all day. Come on, man. So now when I put you in a cell later, you like, man, I could do this standing on my hands, man. I spent most of high school in detention. This ain't nothing, you know? So I had what was called meditation moments. It's similar, because by law, you got to do, when you work in that system, you have to fulfill certain requirements. So you have to have a suspension component. You have to have some form of punitive component, but you can call it what you want. At least to the students on the books, you might say, yeah, sat him in detention or whatever. But, I had different curriculums that I developed, so that you ain't just sitting there in a room. You're doing something, I had different meditation modalities. Then I also had a curriculum that I had formed, we called it the Rage curriculum. And I utilized music as, with that. And there's a whole long thing. I don't get into all that. But anyway, so you still going into the meditation room, or you still going on. I had meditation stools as well. I had given one to Baba Baruti. When he called in, we had him as a guest on the show. He had mentioned that meditation stool, for his school, Aquabin House down there in Atlanta. But I had hit him off with that. He was like, man, I love that idea. I had bought these real nice Ashanti stools. And I was like, that's where you sit. You act up, you bug out, go to the meditation stool. You know what I mean? So you're still interacting with certain symbols, certain elements. You're sitting on wood. They're healing. You're sitting in a real good position, and you got to sit there and meditate. Now, we ain't doing detention. You don't need detention, man. The most I might do is have them have to come to boxing after school. And you know what that was. This is way you could play with the corporal punishment thing. It's just a way to do it. You put them up against another student, like, yo, y'all gonna come to boxing after school. Y'all want to fight? All right, come to boxing class after school. Get it out. But so a lot of times slowing things up is so valuable. Now I'm speaking about what I'm doing with young boys, from 14 to 20. I know I'm talking high school, but sometimes it takes a little longer for some of us to get through it. But these same methods work. You're 40, 50, 60 years old. It'll work for you too, and younger. Sometimes that level of slowing up allows you to regulate things. You think about it just like when you're trying to do something that's difficult. Like for any of you who are involved in any type of sport, any type of music, anything where it requires dexterity. Usually when you're learning something, the first thing you got to learn to do it slow. You see, you got to learn to do it slow, and then you speed it up. And for me, some things that I may teach or whatever, I do it slow, then I do it backwards. Do it slow, do it backwards, do it slow, do that for a long time, then you speed it up. In fact, just last night I was working on something. I was doing some repairs on an old bass guitar that I've been saying for the longest I was going to try to restore it. And I had did some things to it and then pulled it out. I was like, man, this thing's starting to sound all right. And it was something I was trying to do. I kept screwing it up. It was just sloppy, So I said, I'm so used to playing this fast, I'm overconfident. I haven't touched it in a long time, So I slowed it way down, I'm not even thinking about playing it fast. When I need to play it fast, the skill will come to me. But get the mechanics down first. So sometimes you have to slow down the mechanics of your thinking in order to be able to respond quickly when the time comes, because now you're not obsessed about the mechanics of it. It's just like someone who wins the Super Bowl or wins the big game, with a winning pass. Are they thinking about the way they threw the ball? No, because they've thrown that ball that same exact way 5,000 times. 5,000 times. When did it begin? When they was in the backyard just throwing it through an old tire? They threw it the same way they threw it through the tire as they did on the field. You see? And sometimes when you're in those situations, I'm going to tell you, and this just sound crazy, but, just understand that most of this information is for crazy people. That's why you're listening. Okay? Take it how you want it. But don't worry, there's a difference between being crazy and insane. When you're insane, you have a total sense of or total lack of self-awareness. Like my friend, he's insane because he's always the hero. In his mind, that's the Leo thing. He's always the hero. No matter what goes down, he's yo, man, good thing you pulled that young boy off me, man. I was about to kill him. He wasn't. So now you did him a favor because he's down the street bragging about how he just choked you out and I had to pull you off. So I don't know. We got a conflict of stories here. But so the thing is, when you can slow it down, or like I said, you can speed it up in the same instance. But again, if your internal story always brings you to a place where you're unwilling to adapt to whatever the situation may have defined or the situation may have called for, you can't get out of that. You see, that's one of the huge things. Like I said, that person throwing that winning pass, he's not thinking about the mechanics of throwing anymore, because that's already been locked in and ingrained how we do certain things. So even when you're so used to now using your internal processes to segment your thinking, you see, and you do that all the time. Now, when it comes time to do it, something happens. You get on the phone, customer service, somebody's acting stupid, whatever it is, man. Somebody bumps into your car. You immediately start segmenting. Your mind, you're like a Vulcan. You're like Dr. Spock from Star Trek. Logically, if you look at it, you're already starting to segment and cut things up, man. And it becomes, I'm telling you, it becomes a very beautiful experience when you can have that level of outer body experience. You start to gain a couple of things. Number one, you gain a greater sense of self-control. All right, let's just start there. You definitely gain a greater sense of self-control. You gain a greater sense of adaptability. You gain a greater sense of perceptiveness, and you even gain a greater sense of proactiveness, because you're the one who's able to respond and move in a certain way, because you've already segmented what's what and what you're going to get out of each reaction. You see, so many times I talk to clients and students, man, and I'm sharing information with them, and they keep coming back to the same story, the same dialogue that they have inside of themselves, which shows me a lack of emotional maturity. See, a lot of times you guys don't understand because you don't know your own signs. I'm like a hunter. So I'm looking at the different signs as I'm working with you. And sometimes you're giving off signs and you don't even know it, because number one is, there's a lack of self-awareness, but two, you're not trained in that area. So, it's okay. Just like if somebody's a chiropractor or something like that, they may look at me and look at the way I walk and say, you probably have this issue with your back, or you're going to have this issue with your back if you don't start maybe wearing shoes like this, or use this type of pillow, or this, that. And I may be like, what you talking about? It's my body. How you going to tell me something about my body? Well, this person is trained in that area. They talk and think about that all day. The things that I do all day, I like to crack brains open. I do that all day. I like to even watch brain surgery. I like to look at brains of different animals. I find that the mind and the brain and the spirit and the internal conscientious psychology, I find it fascinating. I'm not necessarily fascinated by other things. You see, so I don't assert myself in those areas. We all stand in the village, and we all have a different role that we're supposed to play, or a different character or glyph that we carve out in the village for us to serve the village to its greatest, capacity, or its greatest potential. So sometimes we have to have that ability of trust. But the thing is, as you start to begin to develop and cultivate that inner therapy, that inner what's the word on it? That therapist. I forgot the ist. I was like, I'm saying something wrong here. You start to develop that inner therapist, that will develop, again, that sense of self-awareness, because you're compartmentalizing. And then you find you'll develop a greater sense of empathy when you can separate the emotions like that, man. You'll develop a greater sense of empathy. There's times, man, I've had students, and we go back to the school examples, or even some of you, where things have happened, and because sometimes we move so fast, even in our listening, we don't really connect with what's going on in the moment. I remember years ago, and I need to find this kid, man. I think this kid's dead, but one of my old students, I love this kid, man. He was a good kid. But let me stop saying kid. I don't know. I'm taking on that demonic title. I've been saying it a lot lately. Kid instead of child. I never say kid. I used to correct people for it. I'm calling my child no kid. What the hell's wrong with you? Now I'm doing it. But he professed himself to be gay, right? But he was kind of moved into that. But I was the first person he came out to. I remember the day he came into my office and told me, you know, that he was gay, and, you know, we had to talk about it, and he was really concerned about how I was going to respond to that and this and that. And I said, look, man, gay or not, I said, if I had a school full of you, I'd be happy. You're a great person, you know. And then I asked him some questions. I was like, you know, are you playing with this? Is you entertaining it? You know, is it just because you like freaking off? You know, like, you figuring out different ways to get off? Or do you feel like you really want to be invested in that lifestyle, and that culture, well, sex style and culture, everything that comes with it? He was like, I think I'm invested. He said, ever since I was a little boy, my uncles always told me I was gay. So, you know, I'm ready. You know already. I'm ready to take the box cutter to his uncles and break the damn blade off inside of him. So he's like, yo, all my uncles used to say I was gay. I'm like, yeah, see, all right. I'm sure that was real helpful. You know, so he was like, so, I mean, I guess, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not that attracted to girls, even though he had girlfriends. But they used to, you know, I guess he opened up to me one time because I caught him one day after school, him and this other boy, big time basketball captain, you know, he was leader team on, you know, big time, cool. And I'm like, the boy gay. You know, he too concerned about them bright earrings, and the boy gay. You know, when no one else picked up on it, I seen them and a couple of girls get in a cab, and just the whole vibe. I was like, yo, they getting ready to go have an orgy. I just felt it. And the next day at school, I was like, yeah, what you do after school? And he kind of just gave me this look like, you know what I did after school. You know who I did after school. I was like, all right. So I guess, you know. But so we had some talks about it, and I just had warned him. I said, no, you gotta be careful about these older guys, man. You know, some of your uncles and whoever, so they could have been fake uncles, would tell you that because they want to use you. You know, they want you. So they're trying to move you into position in that sense, you know. And I had remember like a year or two later, I had saw him on Fordham Road in the Bronx, walking with a much older man, and I pulled him to the side. It was like, yo, what you doing, man? Oh no, it's just my friend. I said, here we go, and thus it begins, you know. But yeah, he's got HIV now. You know, last time we spoke, and I have not heard from him for a while. I used to make him check in with me, you know, at least every season, and I haven't heard from him in like 2 years. So I think he might be gone. You know, he can't be any older than, let me see, what grade was he in? He was in, I had him since 9th grade. He can't be any older than maybe 24, if that, you know. But long story short, because I got to get out of here. So there was one time he was a tough kid though. He didn't mind fighting. Everybody would call him Fruity. he would be quick to get in anybody's face. Like, what would you say? You know, and that happened one time in school. And one of my other little thug adopted sons, because he loved me, they said we looked just alike, but we didn't, because he looked like a little monster, but I loved him. Smacked him in the face, you know, and was like, I'll smack you out. I only have to knock you out. Smacked him in the face. And they were getting ready to go at it. You know, like he was like, I'm not afraid of you. I don't care if you're blood, whatever, we'll fight. And but this young man he was Puerto Rican, he had really fair skin. So his whole side of his face was just lit up bright red like a Christmas tree. So when he finally got to my office, I said, listen, man, I know that's a bummer, man. That sucks. I said, I know it wasn't that the smack hurt. I said, but you know, your skin is real tender, you know, and you're fair skinned. So it really looks like he really did something. But I know he didn't do anything to you. I know you're, because he used to come to martial arts. He was a tough kid. I said, I know you're a tough kid. You know, you could have probably took him, actually. Now, he couldn't have took him. You know, but the point is, it was about also, he left this big red mark on the side of my face. And this is now embarrassing. Look at it. So, you know, when you're able to slow things down in that sense, like I said, you develop even a greater sense of empathy, and you learn how to communicate what needs to be communicated in the moment in order to get the bigger message through on the back end. So you learn better communicator appetizers so your main course actually can be digested. All right, I got to get out of here. I got a reading to do. But we'll pick up on this again tomorrow. Tomorrow is Wednesday late night show. I'm not going to act crazy on a late night, so don't even look for it. I know that's what y'all think, that I turn into a gremlin or something after 9 o'clock and I start cursing everybody out or something. But you definitely can learn a lot. So be sure to call in, all right? And for those of you on the Sedula House website, I'll see you over there. I've been having some good conversations with a lot of you on sedulahouse.com. And oh, this person already called in from a block number. I told her to stop doing that. So anyway, so yeah, I'll speak to you all very soon. I'll be back tomorrow. All right. Until such time. Yeah, I see all the all mans. That's how it is when you're doing this work, man. People die. You know, horrible things happen. That's a part of being a priest or a priestess. It's not all laying flowers by the riverside and dancing to Oshun. And yeah, sometimes there's some real ugly stuff like that too. That's why I share these stories with you, so you can be prepared and make an intelligent decision as if this is the life you want or not. You know, I personally have never been checked into a hospital, but I've been in the hospital so many times I can't even remember. I know so many hospitals in the New York, New Jersey, tri-state area, in and out, but I have never personally been checked into a hospital. That's a part of what this work is. Funerals, know them in and out. That's what this work is. There's beautiful parts too, giving birth to babies and, you know, naming ceremonies are awesome. I've married people, that's awesome. But there's other sides of it too, man. When you're presenting yourself and you're holding yourself down as a healer and as a community help, the sick people gonna come to you. And if you're sincere in it, they're gonna make themselves vulnerable to you, man. And they're gonna tell you things. You're gonna hear some of the most saddest testimonies. And you're gonna have how you're feeling about medicine. Not an easy walk, and I don't suggest it for everyone. All right, I'm out. Everyone, peace.